Hello, I'm going to talk to you today about how to be a productive writer. I've read a bunch of books on this. You might want to read some of them, though I'm going to tell you the key points that they all make in a little while, but first let me tell you what they are. The first one is a small, affordable book by Jo Van Every called Finding Time for Your Scholarly Writing. This is a very practical little book. You could carry it in your bag or in your pocket, so it's concise and useful. The second is rather different. It's by Helen Sword, who is a poet from New Zealand and an academic too. And she interviewed 100 academic writers to find out how they could be productive, how they could write well. And her book is called Air and Light and Time and Space. It's beautifully written, as you might expect from a poet, and very readable and quite authoritative. The next one is by Patricia Goodson, who's an American academic. Her book is called Becoming an Academic Writer, 50 Exercises for Paced, Productive and Powerful Writing. If you like doing writing exercises, this is an excellent book I can recommend to you. And even if you don't, it's worth reading through the other bits of the book because it's very informative. Rowena Murray from the UK has written Writing in Social Spaces. Her argument in this book is that writing is a social activity and that regarding it as social helps us to be more productive, which I think is an interesting and a useful argument. Then a couple of older books. The first four are all fairly recent. There's one called How to Write a Lot by Paul Sylvia, which is another small and very practical book, and it's still relevant even though it was written quite a few years ago now. And finally, a book by Ebiatar Zerubbabel called The Clockwork Muse, a practical guide to writing theses, dissertations and more. Again, this is quite old but hardly out of date because after all, techniques for productive writing don't change that much. Also quite practical, quite small, and like all of the others, very readable. I've read them all, so perhaps in one sense you don't have to, though actually I would recommend reading at least one or two, whichever ones seem most appealing to you. But here are some things that they all say. First, they say all progress is good progress. No writing is ever wasted. It's often the case that you have to write several drafts, and students sometimes say to me when I'm teaching writing, how can I just write the good draft? You can't. You need to write the raw material first, and then convert it into a good draft. It's like a potter trying to make a beautifully decorated and perfectly shaped vase in one single step. It's not possible. You have to throw the clay and shape it on the wheel or coil shape it by hand or in a mould and then fire it, and then you can decorate it and then fire it again. And with writing, you have to go through similar steps. But everything you write is a step on the way to your finished final draft. So all progress is good progress. Another thing the books all say is to set yourself a schedule with goals. Some people like time goals best, some people like word goals, and by this I mean some people are happier to write for half an hour, some people are happier to set themselves a goal of writing 500 words in a day. Doesn't matter which one you choose, whichever one works for you. If you're not sure, try them both and find out. But then set yourself a schedule. So maybe if you like word goals, you might say that you will write 1,500 words in a week, aiming to write 500 words a day on 3 separate days. But if that's not done, doing it all on a Sunday afternoon or evening, before the start of the next week or whenever your week begins. If you like time goals, you might set yourself to write for half an hour every morning, Monday to Friday. That's fine. So set a schedule that suits you, that works for you, then monitor your progress against that schedule. Keep track. Keep a little spreadsheet or a calendar on the wall, whatever suits you, and make a note of your progress. If you fall down on your schedule, that doesn't matter. Every writer does that. The point is to keep going. This is another thing all of the books say. Persevere, don't give up. If something happens in your life and you don't write for a week or 2 or 4 or 8, when you get to the point when you're ready to write again, pick yourself up, redesign your schedule and start again. Then something not all of the books say, but I say, is to reward yourself for success. The reward needs to be proportionate. If you write 500 words, then reward yourself with a 2-week holiday. You're not going to get your writing done really very quickly. But when you reach a real milestone, like a full chapter in draft or a full dissertation, something along those lines, then give yourself a reward and decide what it will be beforehand. Put it in your schedule. When I get to this point, I can go to the cinema, spend an afternoon in the garden. It doesn't matter what the reward is. It needs to be something that is going to work for you, that will make you feel good as if you've had a treat. And when you get to that point, make sure you give yourself that reward. It's not really difficult to be a productive writer, apart from the fact that writing's quite difficult, but the systems for productivity are not complicated or hard. So if you follow this advice in a way that's gentle with yourself, you will be a more productive writer.